Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something that I'm seeing a lot of lately online. Even coaches and trainers and people I know are like, oh, you need to try these protein bars, guys, they're so good. And it's always these plant-based protein supplements. And there's a few things that we need to make very, very clear here. And when I say this, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be eating more plants. I have no issue with the concept of plant-based as long as you're adding in sufficient amount of animal foods. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, we could argue that for many people, a plant-based, very high carbohydrate diet is actually quite good for athletic performance, for health, for everything else. However, when we start discussing the actual protein side, we need to be aware that these are not high quality sources of protein. They're not high quality sources of protein, and we need to discuss why that matters. Now, you'll see a lot of people who will say falsely, oh, well, they're incomplete proteins, so therefore we don't get all the amino acids we need. Okay, first of all, that's nonsense. There are very, very few plant proteins that are particularly incomplete. What do we mean by incomplete? It's not to say that they don't have all the amino acids. Okay? You're not going to find protein sources in nature very often that don't have all 20 amino acids, or at least all 8 of the essential ones, the ones that you can't make out of other amino acids, right? The 8 that you cannot make on your own. They all have them. Some of them are lower in their ratios of some than others. And what do we mean low? People say, well, how's that determined? Well, based on what humans use and need. All right, we don't care about what those ratios and amino acid profile are for a cow. It's completely irrelevant. We care about humans, how you utilize them to build structures and things in your body. Because we make everything out of amino acids. Everything in our body that is not bone or fat, we are making largely out of amino acids. Muscle, tendons, blood, enzymes, right? Tons of different things in your body. All this stuff in your bloodstream that does all these functions, largely made out of amino acids. The reason meat is mostly protein. So we care about those ratios. Those ratios matter, but they're all there. Right? The argument could be made, well, it doesn't matter that rice is low relative to its other amino acids and these others, because as long as we get enough of it or we combine it with another one, we're okay. So they're not incomplete. Our issue is one of absorption, because there are plant proteins that actually have a great amino acid profile. Okay? There are plant proteins that actually have fairly high ratios relative to the other amino acids of the 8 essential ones, all 8 of the essentials. There are quite a few plant proteins that do. And I want to make that very, very clear. That's not our concern. Our concern is absorption. Okay, the issue we run into is that the matrices that they are in inside plants makes it very difficult for humans to get the amino acids. So, what am I saying? Well, I'm saying that depending upon the specific plant and your digestibility of it and everything else, you're going to get somewhere between something in the range of 40 to 70% of the amino acids out of it. So if you were to eat 100 grams of plant protein, 100 grams, you're going to get 40 to 70 grams of it, depending upon the specific type that it is. That's all that's going to make it to your bloodstream. Now that's a problem. So if we're talking about plant protein and people are like, oh yeah, this protein bar's got 18 grams of plant protein, so really what you mean is that it's got 9 grams of protein. And then they're taking this big matrix of highly processed stuff to make this bar to try to get some protein. Why don't you just eat a candy bar? And I actually like some protein bars. Don't get me wrong, pure protein's actually pretty good. I like the Metrix ones too. It's not something I eat regularly. I have situations to where I do grab them on the go. When I'm out and about and traveling and things, yes, I've done that from time to time. But it's not something we should be making a regular habit of. I mean, it is basically just a candy bar with some protein added. What I would say to people, if you're buying them to have to eat, there's not really much difference between that and a protein bar, or just get a granola bar. Right? Why aren't you just grabbing a granola bar with mostly natural ingredients somewhere? You can always add extra protein in, especially if it's around your house. And it's the same with plant protein supplements. We're running into these issues of it's a low quality supplement. And you need way more of it. You need way more of it. And then they pick the worst ones. Like, people will look at them and instead of thinking through, oh, well, all plant proteins equal. No, how many of them are pea protein? Right, there's plenty of data out there over the years showing that there are digestion issues, malabsorption issues in your gut with pea protein. I'm not going to get into a whole diatribe on gut health because it's not what I cover on my channel, but I know people who are very, very, very serious gut health experts. Like, it is what they do. I have at least one close person to me that is what they do. That's their shtick. That's their profession. Gut health. They're like, you shouldn't be eating pea protein. Yet, how many of these plant-based ones are a bunch of pea protein? So our issue is one of getting enough. Now, you'll see a lot of these people say, well, we don't need as much protein. Okay. I will be willing to make a compromising statement here, a couple of them. But the problem is that you're still wrong. But I'll make some compromising statements. Do we need the amount of proteins the average gym bro discusses to maximize muscle growth? No. No, we don't. Okay, there's definitely an upper threshold. However, it can affect recovery, tendons, things like that. There's more going on than just the amount of protein that we need to build the muscle itself. Okay? There are recovery elements to it. There's recovery elements to it, and these things have to be factored in. I will even venture to say that people who are on very, very high carbohydrate diets can get by with less protein and still maximize performance and muscle growth. Okay? A lot of times when I discuss the really high protein intakes, I'm also talking about in a scenario where carbohydrates are limited. And you know what? Protein becomes even more valuable. Hey, if someone's eating a very high carbohydrate diet, pretty high calorie, what do I mean by really high carbohydrate? More than 60% of your calories from carbs, and you have a very high energy turnover. You could probably get away with less protein and still maximize growth, recovery, performance. Absolutely. Carbohydrate is very, very protein sparing. You eat way more so than fat is. Also very anabolic. But it doesn't negate the needs for protein. And let's come over to the point. I'm going to say that for a lot of you, for healthy men, you're going to need probably at least 1.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, assuming your protein is primarily fully absorbable proteins and you're on a higher carbohydrate diet. So what does that mean for a guy like me? That means it's 150 grams. Okay, 150 grams. Now, if I was getting 100 of that every day from really high quality sources like dairy, ultra high quality sources, that would probably be just fine. I wouldn't care that a bunch of the rest came from plants. Wouldn't be a big deal in that scenario because the vast majority is high quality, high carbohydrate diet, high calorie intake, probably perfectly acceptable. There may not be any extra benefits beyond the calories of protein overfeeding beyond that. The problem is that the people who are doing this and discussing this are not getting 150 grams of really high quality protein being the majority when you're adding plant proteins in. You're just not. If you look at their situation and the person is only getting, 3 ounces of chicken and 1 protein shake a day and everything else is coming from plants like it's whey or something, 150 might not be cutting it. Not going to be ideal. So basically, you guys who are throwing this stuff in, you're throwing in proteins that can have nutrient absorption issues. You're throwing in proteins that don't have the other benefits like the B12 and other stuff that we need. B12 deficiency is quite common, by the way. Just to get this protein shake in, or this protein bar. Why? You're not getting any benefit. It's so minor in comparison. It's a really, really low quality protein in the grand scheme of things. You know, if you're going to supplement protein, at least get the really high quality stuff, some sort of whey, some sort of casein. Okay. You can find ones that don't affect your stomach. But get high quality, not plant protein. It's absolutely ridiculous. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.